EMAT is happy to welcome Trish Phillips. Trish Phillips is a living kidney donor and the founder and CEO of Multicultural Miracle Donor Foundation. Welcome, Trish.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Shirley and EMAT and all of those who are on attending. Thank you for your time and day today. It's an honor to be here for National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month or Minority Donor Awareness Month. I had the honor and privilege of celebrating with EMAT last year in Jacksonville, and I'm honored again to take part of this prestigious month on via Zoom. So today, most of you probably already know me, but a little of you who do not, I'm going to give you some background. I am Trish Phillips, and I'm a living kidney donor. I donated almost 7 years ago. December 15th will make 7 years. I donated directly to a best friend of mine of 25 plus years, Kimberly. Kimberly and I are both doing well. In the past, I was like most minorities, African Americans, that was not aware about living organ donation or even organ transplantation itself. So it came to pass, Kimberly and I were coined ourselves the modern day Thelma and Louise, minus that ending, of course. But I got, tired and just a little down. It was depressing how our adventures started to diminish. And what I mean by that, we would have so many adventures, so many activities. But with dialysis, I'm sure most of you on here know the toll dialysis can take and put on your body. So I didn't like how she was feeling. And I asked her if it was anything I could do to help. And like most people on dialysis, especially when it comes to our race, they shy away or feel like they're a burden and don't want to ask if you would donate a kidney or even get tested. So she didn't ask me. I told her I was going to volunteer and see if I was a match and see where it goes. Just so happened, God arranged my environment where everything started to fall into place. And it was also a blessing in disguise. I had been struggling with losing weight myself. So I had to lose 20 pounds because the transplant center where I donated, your BMI needed to be 33% or less. So it also, not only did I give Kimberly a gift of life, she gave me a gift of life because I was able to lose the weight. And since donation, she and I are both doing well. I'm more mindful about what I put in my body. I take care of myself just as long as I'm feeling good. I'm getting my labs. I get my lab work twice a year, every 6 months, I should say, twice a year. So after all of this happened and the transplant went well, we both started healing properly without any complications, I started volunteering. And what I mean by volunteering, I started becoming an advocate. I volunteered with organ procurement group or volunteer group. And I was at a tabling event. And at that particular tabling event, I was co-hosting with a Caucasian female. There was an African American gentleman who came up to just the table in general. She stopped him and asked, "Are you a registered organ donor?" He looked like he wanted nothing to do with her and he wanted to take off. He was scared. It had medical mistrust all over it. So I went over and I just casually asked him, was he an organ donor, registered organ donor? Did he want any questions about living donor and becoming a living donor? And he was cutting his eyes and he said, "Okay, I'll talk to you." When he said that to me, that's when I knew my life had changed for the better. Immediately, I knew I had to start my foundation. which I'm going to get into a little bit later. And that event, reason why it changed my mind, my life, because I said the same spill, identical to what she said, but because I looked like him, I changed the narrative. He felt, as I spoke to him, that his words, like a timeshare presentation, like he was being strong-armed into signing to be a registered organ donor. It changed me because I knew I had to look at the presentation differently. And what I mean by that, I had to change the narrative. I didn't lead off with, are you an organ donor? Can you sign up? I led off with something that has stuck with me. Did you know there are over 100,000 people waiting for a life-saving organ transplant? But of that 100,000, it is 60% of multicultural races. Alarming. When I told him that, it impacted him and it shook me to my core. Of course, I've heard the stats before, but for me to deliver it first in the reverse order, I knew this was the way for me to go. And then I reminded him that chronic kidney disease runs rampant in multicultural communities, minority communities. And I said, we battle with high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, obesity, being overweight, heart disease, so forth, so on, economic disparities, quite a few things. And I always felt with starting my foundation, yes, the end game is to be a registered organ donor, but with me reversing it and trying to have people to be advocates and proactive and preventative measures for their own health, which can possibly change their way of not having to make it to seek dialysis, is impactful. And I'm very passionate about it. And this is why I started Multicultural Miracle Donor Foundation. Yes, that's a mouthful. So it's better known as MMDF. And what we do, we assist and inform and educate, help with prevention tips, and for living donation and deceased organ donation. That's also important because, of course, race does not play an effect when it comes to organ donation, but the DNA, the chemical makeup, it sometimes does play an effect that the organ would work better if it's coming from someone that looks like us. But organ transplantation knows no color, of course. But it's to change and to lower the amount of people on a transplant list should be a goal for us as a race, and bring in diversity where we are not the Black unicorns, where we are not a rare sighting to see a living kidney donor. I shouldn't be rare. It should be just as common. Just like there are maybe 60 double Ds, is what we call them in the transplant world, which are double donors, living kidney donors, and also donors who have donated a portion of their lower lobe of their liver. So I tend to make sure that I start off with the preventative things and the impact that that makes. I always ask people, do they know someone on dialysis, even if it's not themselves? In my speak engagements, I always end with looking everyone in the eyes, and I get participation from the audience. And what I mean by that, I have everyone to close their eyes, to think if you yourself a loved one, a sibling, a significant other, aunt, brother, friend, any loved one, including yourself, needed a life-saving transplant, wouldn't you want someone to provide that organ for you, or to save your life, or give you a better quality of life? That is what I get so much joy and fulfillment when I have, if it's just one person that I can get to, and they come up to me at the end and want more information about becoming a living donor, or just volunteering, how they can advocate, how they can register to be an organ donor. And I'm big on dispelling myths, because I have found when it comes to the organ transplant world in minorities, we are believing a lot of stuff. So I try to dispel them. And for the state of Florida, they are mind blown after they find out you do not have to put organ donor on your driver's license anymore. Yes, you are still a registered organ donor, but it's no longer having to be on there, because it's cuts down on people not wanting to be an organ donor. I explained to them that it's a whole different medical team at the ER, organ procurement team, but I try to use medical words that they would understand so they can let it sink in. And with that, I have made an impact and change in South Florida, where I have gotten more information. And when I donated, I wasn't educated on, if I wasn't a match for Kimberly, I could still donate. There's such things as called paired exchange programs or voucher programs. My senior ambassador for MMDF, Sophia Jackson, she lives in Utah. She was on the flight to Washington, D.C., and she saw where there was a African-American NYPD detective named Vadrian who needed a kidney. She did all the testing. She was not a match for Vadrian. So she donated to Vadrian, to someone else for Vadrian's behalf. Vadrian, the NYPD cop, did receive her kidney within 6 months, 3 to 6 months. So it is ways, and I teach ways to get the word out if you're looking for a donor, if you're actively looking, because you know the saying we say as a race, closed mouths don't get fed. It applies, because you never know who want to donate. You never know where your story will impact or make a change or difference. Share your stories. Share your stories, because you never know. I think I pretty much covered everything. You can reach me on all social media handles as Trish Phillips. And the foundation, you can reach out social media as well, but the website is www.mmdfoundation.org. And I thank you for your Sunday time.
A lot of times people will think people with one kidney don't live a good, healthy life, and they don't know what to expect if they donate. Share with us why you're now running those marathons.
Okay, from your mouth to God, my ears, it's not a marathon yet, but that is my goal, to run a marathon. But what is going on is kidney donor athletes, they set on a mission to make a change and prove that kidney donors, you can live normal lives and be elite athletes, to show that minorities can participate even if they're just starting their physical journey. I took an oath of doing, for the first 6 months, 1 5K per month, and the second half of the year of doing 10K. 5Ks are 3.1 miles, and the 10K is 6.2 miles. Those kicked off for my 50th birthday in July. And a reason why I made sure to do this, because we had no one representing us at all. And I'm trying to bring diversity and show that we can be elite athletes. And our body mass is built a little different. I'm 5'9", 200 pounds. And so I'm plus size, and I'm showing them now my time may not be a 5-minute mile, but I'm still not on the couch and I'm not coming in last. So I'm completing them. So I thought that was very important for us as a race to get me in there. And so far, it's a success. There's also not a big diversity when you go to these official marathons. It's not many people there that look like us just as a regular participant. So that was the challenge. Kidney donor athletes, which is a big foundation, and it's only 3 of us in the entire group. And I think it's like 100 of us, 3 African Americans and 2 Latin. And it's like 100 of us. So I had to step up to the plate. And thank you for asking. I forgot all about that was on the promo.
Thank you for sharing that information.
Trish, the idea of a living minority donor, I mean, I can list on one hand how many living donors of color that I've known, that I know over the last 45 years. It is such a rarity, and it just doesn't make any sense. You're right. Organ donation is colorblind for the most part, but they have determined these last few decades that people of color do better with transplants that come from people of color for some genetic reason. My 47-year-old, 47 years long transplant came from a white female. So that's not always the case, obviously, but as a people, we have got to get the word out, as you are, about the need for minority living donors, and of course deceased donors.
Thank you, George, for your words of encouragement and always being a supporter. It's not many of us, and it is a lot of work, but it's because it's a passion for me. It's not work for me. If I could do this for the rest of my life and not make 1 cent in salary, I'm not getting a salary now, but meaning if I was retired, I would do this for the rest of my life without pay, because the joy it brings me, my heart gets so full when people see that it's okay to be a living kidney donor, and you won't go in for giving up just a kidney and wake up dead, or you won't get your body back. The joy it brings me to just touch one person, if I don't get a dime, that is priceless, my friends. And that's another thing I have to dispel. They don't realize that just because you're organ donor registered does not mean you will have the opportunity to become that hero, because you have to go in a way where your organs are viable, but alive still, and just be brain deaf.
Keep in mind, folk, that I've lived 47 years with just 1 kidney. In the Quarter Century Club, we have probably I'll say 10 or 12 living donors that are 25, 35, 50 years having donated and still living fine with that 1 kidney. Never fear being a living donor.
Tell us where you want your organization to be next year this time. Are you gathering other living donors to come in with you with this mission?
This time next year and every year, I want to be able to have a voice to change the way organ transplantation is looked at or received for minorities. I want diversity there. So yes, I would love for the foundation to be much larger than what it is now. It has grown this year tremendously, and I'm part of MMDF, and myself is part of a national movie that's being filmed next month in Dallas. And I hope that can give us some traction. The movie will be on Netflix or Amazon this time next year. They're still working out, even HBO Max is in the bid for it. So hopefully this will make an impact for us and with MMDF. So I would like just to make a change.
Thank you so much for your time here on a Sunday afternoon. We appreciate you showing up again and enjoy your evening. Goodbye.